What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 4, Episode 3, Read It and Weep. So we start off with Maurice and Marceau meeting up at Black. Black is the lounge that is owned by Marceau and his wife Tisha, and working at the bar is Maurice's stepson Jaden, who works for Maurice and Tisha. Who works for Marceau and Tisha at the lounge. So Maurice says that he has some unfinished business to address with his brother Marceau. That started from the dinner that they had with their brother Micah. Now at that dinner, when the picture was brought up, Marceau kind of just brushed it off like, hey, I was just trying to be funny, no big deal, let's move on with it. But I guess Maurice was still feeling some kind of way, and he felt like he had to have a one-on-one meeting with his brother about that dinner and about the picture. So he starts off by saying that by Marceau posting that picture, Maurice said that, Kimmy's got to deal with it, Tisha's got to deal with it. And I think when he's talking about dealing with it, he's referring to the backlash from the public or from social media. And then Marceau says, well, Tisha's fine. And then Maurice says, well, Tisha's always fine until she's not. So it seems like, he was inferring that Tisha will always act like, whenever these rumors come out about her husband or whenever there's some kind of controversy about their marriage, Tisha will always put on like a really strong, she'll put on like this really strong persona, like she doesn't care, nothing's affecting her. And then you find out later that she's completely broken down. So, Maurice finally says that he admitted to being there with Martell when I guess Martell was hanging out with his mistress. He says, I admitted to being there way before you even posted that picture. Admitted that to who, Maurice? Who did you admit that to? And then Marceau says, well, that's not what everybody heard. Okay, what does that mean? Are you saying that are you saying that's not what everybody heard, as in you admitted it, but you didn't admit it in a public forum? Because it was revealed on a public forum that you lied about ever being around Martell and his mistress. So you saying that you admitted it in private to whoever doesn't necessarily mean that, you have redeemed yourself in the eyes of the public. So then Maurice demands an apology from his brother. He says, you need to apologize to me for posting that picture. And then Marceau was like, excuse me, boy, stop. He says, I can give Kimmy an apology, if this affected her in any kind of negative way, but I'm not going to give you an apology. So Maurice says, you put me in the midst of all of this mess, this drama, because we know that Maurice, he likes to stay away from this kind of stuff. And Marceau says, no, I didn't put you in the middle of anything. You put yourself in the midst by answering the question the way that you did, which was by saying that you'd never been there. I guess when he says there, he's referring to that trip in Vegas. So they both brothers agreed that Maurice did not lie when he was on stage, when he said that he had never been around Martell and his mistress. They both admit that, he didn't lie about that because he never saw Martell and the mistress interact with each other. He was there on that trip, but he himself had never witnessed Martell and the mistress together. So now we're splitting hairs and talking semantics. Because none of these men, Marceau, Maurice, or Martell, are going to be 100% truthful. And I don't know if the mistress, I think her name is Ariane, I don't know if she's already given a play-by-play explanation of what happened in that trip in Vegas, and she has spilled all the tea. I don't know. But these three men, the men that I'm watching on my television screen, they're not going to fully give an accounting of exactly what happened because they're constantly covering for each other, lying for each other. They're all up to no good. The whole story seems extremely fishy and inconsistent and huge gaping holes all over the story. But let's just play along with it. So, so Marceau says, well, what you could have said was, I was there, but I didn't see any of the interactions, because specifically, if I can remember correctly, that was the question. If he had ever witnessed Martell with the mistress, to confirm or deny, Martell has this look of love in his eyes when he's around his mistress. And he said he didn't. Okay, he said, no, I've never witnessed that. Well, he didn't say never. He just said no. And then that's when Maurice stepped in and said, well, yeah, when they asked Maurice, well, have you? And when they asked Marceau, have you? And Marceau said, yes, he had. And then Marceau posts this picture. So my question is this. Marceau, if you understood that your brother wasn't lying and he technically answered the question correctly or truthfully by saying that he never witnessed with his own eyeballs Martell with the mistress, then what was the point of posting that picture? Because y'all both agree that he didn't lie about whether or not he was on that trip. He didn't lie about that because the question wasn't, were you on the trip? The question was, have you ever seen Martell and Ariane together? So if he didn't lie and he was being honest, he didn't lie about not being on the trip because he wasn't asked, and he was being honest about not seeing Martell and his mistress together, then why did you post the picture as if you wanted to catch him in a lie, as if you wanted to reveal to the public that your brother lied at the reunion? So what was the point of posting the picture if everything's on the up and up? So okay, so then during his confessional, Marceau had mentioned something about, his brother being older than him, that Maurice was older than him. Y'all, and that really took me by surprise. I was like, what? Maurice is older than Marceau? That's insane because Marceau looks significantly older than Maurice. Maurice has such a baby face, and Marceau looks like, he's lived a long and hard life. So I was just shocked that Marceau was younger than Maurice. I mean, if he is younger, it has to be by like 9 months to a year. It can't be by that much. So then Martell shows up. So then, it gets even more interesting. So Martell shows up and he invites them to his children's book signing. So in that very first episode, when Martell was talking about, his new business ventures, his calendar, and his book, I thought he meant he himself had written a book. But it turns out his children wrote a children's book. So he invites both brothers to the book signing. They're both going to be busy that day, so neither one of them are going to be able to make it. And then they start talking about the picture, and Maurice was like, I don't understand what no, Marceau says, I don't understand why Maurice is so bothered by that picture. He acts like I threw him under the bus or something. And Martell looked at him like, what? Because you did. You so did. Like, what are you talking about? And so Martell agrees that it was really shady of Marceau to post a picture because they had all agreed, I guess, that they were never going to admit that Maurice because the consensus was that Maurice wasn't, they had all agreed that Maurice was not there. I guess they had all agreed that if they were ever questioned, they were going to say that Maurice wasn't there. And, if he said he wasn't there, then they were going to go along with it. If Maurice said I wasn't there, then Marceau and Martell were going to go along with that he wasn't there. So that confused me even more. What was the big deal about him being there? Because he said that he admitted to being there before the picture. Like, I don't even, like I said, you will never get the true story from these men. So Martell says, if he said he wasn't there, we were all going to go along that he wasn't there. Obviously, until Marceau posted the picture. But then earlier, Maurice had said that he had admitted to being there before Marceau posted the picture. So are you saying you lied about going on this trip? And then I guess after the reunion, you admitted to your wife that you did go on this trip. And then Marceau posts the picture. And now they're all talking about it. And Martell was like, well, we were going to go along with you if you said that you weren't on the trip. So why would you lie about going on this trip? So Marceau, in his confessional, he says that he's not going to take any responsibility for what he did to his brother. He says that Maurice, his brother, did not answer the question properly. So he used the word properly. He didn't answer the question properly when Carlos King asked him if he had ever been around Martell and his mistress. Marceau didn't say he didn't answer the question truthfully. He said he didn't answer the question properly. So then Martell asks why Marceau was attacking. So I guess this is the whole point of why Martell showed up, because he ain't got no damn friends on this show. The wives don't really see it for him. And so if the wives don't see it for him, then the guys are not going to really want to be too chummy with him. So he's a big ally for Louis because that's like the only person that really likes him. So he was asking Marceau, why were you so hard on Louis at the reunion? And Marceau was like, I didn't like how he came after my marriage. The whole thing about how, Lewis hasn't been married that long and he has a divorce under his belt and he has no business giving me any kind of advice on my marriage. So he didn't like that. And that was the whole reason why, he came so hard for Lewis. Now, maybe he came hard for Lewis because Lewis and his wife Tiffany were exposing some cracks in Marceau and Tisha's marriage. And that's the reason why Marceau has a huge problem with Lewis, because he doesn't want Lewis and his wife Tiffany giving Tisha any ideas, or making Tisha go further off the deep end on whether or not, her husband could possibly have been unfaithful to her. So he basically says, yeah, I didn't like how he came at me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know anything about me or my wife. And so he doesn't have to say anything about my marriage. He shouldn't have to say one damn word about anything that's going on in my household. And so Martell says, well, it kind of came off like you were bullying him. Now, I hate it when adults talk about being bullied by other adults. I think bullying should only be used when you're talking about minors who are being bullied in a situation or in an environment that they cannot escape from. The most common one being schools. So if a child is being constantly harassed by another child, the child that's being harassed has no way out, really. And most of the time, the teachers don't care. The parents either don't know or don't care or feel like they can't do anything about it. And so this kid is kind of like stuck in this situation if the child even wants to tell anyone. Most of the time, the bully will threaten them or scare them into not saying anything to anyone. So this child, the victim, is like suffering in silence, and they have to go to school. They can't make that decision to not go to school. They can't make that decision of, let me just go to a different class. They can't do that. And if they can't fight back, then the bully is constantly harassing them. And so they're stuck in this environment of fear, intimidation, etc. Adults are not stuck in anything. You cannot say that some other adult is bullying you, because number one, adults are a little bit better at defending themselves than children. That's number one. Number two, and I'm not talking about instances of like domestic violence where a woman is kind of like, or a partner is really trapped in a home or in a relationship that they really can't escape because they don't have the resources or the support. I'm not talking about that. I'm referring to grown men who are speaking about each other's marriages, businesses, lives, whatever, and they want to call themselves being bullied. No, we're not going to do that, because you can defend yourself. You can use your words and put that person in their place, have a conversation, or you can just remove yourself from the situation. That's why I also don't understand how adults can be bullied online, or even like how anyone can be bullied online. Because if you don't like what's being said about you or what's being said to you on any kind of social media platform, click off, block that person, delete, turn off your computer, move away from your desk. Bullying to me is a constant feeling intimidated, harassed. You're constantly in fear of someone who's bothering you all the time, and you cannot escape it. So Martell says that Marceau was bullying Lewis. No, he wasn't. Lewis is like 10 feet taller and 100 pounds heavier than Marceau. There's no way that I'm going to sit here and believe that Marceau was bullying Lewis. And stop it. I really hate it when they misuse that term. So Marceau says that he agrees to have a conversation with Lewis. He has no problem with that, whatever. So we're moving on to Lewis and Tiffany. So Lewis and Tiffany are having a conversation. Tiffany's telling her husband about the pajama party and how Stormy came at her, and how she's basically smoothed everything over with Kimmy. Now, when she had referred to the thing about, that's like someone talking about something that you did when you were 12, I thought she was literally meaning that something that someone had done when they were 12 years old in the previous episode. But I think she was just using that as some kind of like an analogy or something. Once again, Tiffany has disappointed me by being completely uninteresting. So then Lewis tells Tiffany that Martell, not Marceau, the one he's having an issue with, but Martell, who's acting like the middleman, Martell has asked him if he wouldn't mind to sit and talk with Marceau and kind of smooth out their differences. Now, for some crazy reason, instead of letting the men deal with their own men issues, Tiffany doesn't like that. She wants it to be a double date with her and Lewis, Marceau, and Tisha. And I'm like, why? Why does you and Tisha don't have any issues? Why does it have to be a double date? Is it because once again you want to compare your marriage to a marriage that you think is in crisis and maybe kind of like show off to Tisha and Marceau that hey, our marriage is fine, our marriage is strong compared to what's going on in your home? I don't understand, Tiffany, at all. Let these two men hash it out on their own without, the damn wives. So, then Tiffany says that she's known Marceau for a very, very long time. She's known him since Monaco. Once again, no explanation of what the hell Monaco is. She doesn't really give any details as far as like exactly how long ago y'all were working at Monaco together, how many years I've known. She just says, "Oh, I've known him a really long time, ever since Monaco." Are you talking about the place Monaco? Or are you talking about a company called Monaco? What the hell are you talking about, Tiffany? So then Lewis gets really agitated because he's like, yeah, we know them. I've known Marceau for a long time or whatever. I don't know why Lewis got agitated because him and Tiffany have only been married a year. And Tiffany says that she's known Marceau for a very long time. So are you saying that that the two of y'all have been together as long or longer than Tiffany has known Marceau? Like, what are you talking about? So Lewis gets agitated because he's upset, like, because he was like, Marceau acts like he don't know me, but he knows me. We know each other. And, okay, so whatever. So y'all are going to meet up at some point in time and y'all are going to hash it out. Moving on to Melody and her daughter Mariah. This was so, so sweet. When I see the children of Melody and Martell, it's like very emotional for me because of what they've gone through. They have these crazy parents, very crazy parents who don't know how to co-parent, who don't know how to live life after divorce. And I'm pretty sure that living with these two people was absolute hell for these kids because Martell and Melody fight dirty. They argue very, very dirty. And, I can only imagine what they witnessed when their parents' marriage was falling apart, but before they actually, stopped living together. So Mariah's helping her mom with her auditions. I guess Melody now sees herself as an actress, and so she's trying to do this audition tape, and her daughter's helping her with it. And then after they get done with that, they sit down and they have a very heart-to-heart conversation. And, Melody is just very concerned about how this divorce is going to shape her children. And so she doesn't want this divorce to affect them negatively in the long run. So she wants to use this as a tool to help them become stronger. And so, she's basically letting her daughter know that, why do you think your mother works so hard and, takes on so many jobs? And her daughter says, well, to make sure that we have food in our belly and a home to live in. And then Melody says, yeah, that's right. But also to show you how strong women can be on their own. You don't need to depend on anyone else, i.e. a husband or a man, to make things happen, to make things work for you. You can live a happy, fulfilling life just by yourself, making your own money, doing your own thing, being completely independent. So that was a very good conversation, but her daughter is so sweet. Even talking about it makes me emotional because it's like these children are trying to also be strong. And it seems like their parents could care less about each other and how their fighting affects their children. But like in this hurricane of life after divorce, these children are trying so hard to be strong, and it's bittersweet for me to watch. Moving on, Martell is at his mother's house. His mother is Marlene. So Martell sees himself now as some kind of a wine connoisseur, and even though he doesn't drink. He doesn't really drink. He doesn't know much about alcohol, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the hell Martell is doing, but now he's in the wine business. And so I don't know if he started a wine company or he partnered up with a wine company. Of course, there's not always a lot of details, but somehow or another, he's involved in the wine business. And this company in California has sent him some samples to try out. And so he wants his mother to try out the samples because he doesn't drink a lot. So he doesn't really know what's good and what's not. But he was inspired by a wine that him and Melody really liked when they were married. And so he was inspired by that particular wine to start his own wine company or to get involved in the wine business. So he was drinking that wine. So he does drink, but I don't know why he couldn't figure out himself what was good and what was not good. He had to have his mom help him out, unless it was just to create a scene. So he's got this wine company and his mom is testing it out. And he's very grateful for his mother because, she stuck by his side and she's been very, very supportive. And he basically is telling his mom that he really hopes that Mel will bring the kids to the book signing. So I guess this scene was to reiterate, to drill into our brains, there's a book signing coming up. There's a book signing coming up. There's a book signing coming up. And so the mom says that she'll be there. Moving on to the Scots. So we see we see Marceau and his wife Tisha spending time with their three children. Wow, oh wow, oh wow. Their oldest son MJ has really grown. They don't show their children a lot on television, I've noticed. And like compared to Melody, we're familiar with all of her children. But with the Scots, we've seen them, but I'm just not really like I wouldn't be able to pick them out in a crowd full of other children, like I would be able to pick out Melody's kids. So the son looks really grown. He looks very, very grown, and he looks like his dad a lot. And so they're there with their three kids, and they're doing, making s'mores and stuff. And then they talk about a trip to Tanzania. Evidently, Marceau, when he went on that not secretive, when he went on that solo trip to Africa, he went to the country of Tanzania. And it was really beautiful there. He really enjoyed his experience there. And I know that Tisha, for sure, gave him an earful about traveling by himself because every time that she goes on vacation with her children, he never has the time. He's busy working, building generational wealth. But then when it's time for him to go on a trip, he's got the time for that. When he wants to go somewhere, he has all the time in the world to go and take a trip to like across the world. But he wants to do it by himself. So I'm pretty sure Tisha gave him the what for about that because now he's going to take his family with him. So they plan on traveling to Africa together. I'm thinking they're going to go to Tanzania. And I guess after the kids leave, Tisha brings up the situation. Okay, so after the kids leave and it's just Tisha and her husband, Marceau, Tisha brings up what her mother had about Marceau having a secret apartment with Martel. And Tisha was like, I wonder where she got that from. That you have this secret apartment. Where could she have gotten that from? And so Marceau says, well, it came from the same person that said I had an outside baby. And I think he's referring to Martel because Martel is very vocal about other people in the group being unfaithful and not just him. So, and then he says, but I'm not going to spend my time convincing someone who I am, proving myself to this person when they're very much dedicated to destroying me and ruining my reputation. So once again, Marceau talks about how he has the opportunity, I guess, to really clear his name with some of these rumors that are circulating about him. But to him, it's not worth the time. It's not worth the energy. It's like, it's not really worth it. They're going to say what they're going to say. So I'm not going to say anything at all to defend myself. And I know that gets under Tisha's skin because all she really wants is for this man to stand on top of the social media mountain and yell at the top of his lungs, I'm not being unfaithful to my wife. I love my wife. She's the best wife anyone could ever have. And I'm faithful and I'm not cheating. I don't have any outside children. That's all she wants this man to do. And he will never give her that. And his excuse is always, oh, the people that are talking about me, they're not worth my time. So why bother? So Marceau says that his vehicles are so distinctive, because they have his name. He's got, vanity plates with his name on it. He has a very unique looking truck. So if he has some kind of secret apartment, people could identify his car and it would be all over social media about Marceau being seen at this, undisclosed location or this secret apartment to meet up, with his hoes. So he's like, yeah, if I would have had a secret apartment, you would have known about it. It would have been all over the internet, because anyone would know, they know what my car looks like. Tisha, you're not falling for this, are you? I don't know if he has a secret apartment or not. I don't know if it's his secret apartment, if it's someone else's secret apartment, if he has a joint secret apartment. That's not even the point. If he wanted to meet someone somewhere, he's not going to be an idiot and like drive his unique looking cars to meet up with his mistress. He's not going to drive up to his mistress's house in his own vehicle, especially when, they think that they're so famous that the whole world is, focused on what they do. He's not going to do that. How hard is it to borrow someone else's car, to rent a car, to have someone drive you, to take public transportation? How hard is it to show up somewhere in a car that doesn't belong to you? But Tisha, she's gonna act like she's falling for the okie doke. So Tisha, you're gonna act like you believe your husband and you agree with what he says. So if it ever, and I'm not saying that it will, I am not saying that it will because I don't know what this man's doing. But if it ever comes out that he was cheating on you, they're gonna play this clip of you nodding your head and agreeing to this nonsense that he's feeding you, that the only way that he can show up at someone's house is if he drove there himself in his unique cars. So, so he talks about how, obviously he doesn't because somebody would have seen his, very unique looking cars at these secret locations. At this point, watching these two people have this conversation, I felt like the tension in that room was super, super thick. I felt like Tisha was very uncomfortable. I felt like Marceau himself was also uncomfortable because Tisha, I feel like she's suspecting either she knows something, and by her questioning her husband and knowing that he's going to deny everything, it's like she's trying to prove to the naysayers that they're good. He's not doing anything. But she knows in her heart that there's something going on. But she has to ask these questions and put this out there so that he can, do his whatever he needs to do to lie or whatever to appear as if he's 100% innocent. And Marceau, I feel like I don't know if he does this. I don't know if he knows he looks like he's lying, and that's part of his plot to make the naysayers even more upset. Like he's purposely going to look like he's lying so that people can come after him. So then he can just be like, well, show me the receipts of that I'm doing something wrong. Or if he really is lying and it's obvious that he's like uncomfortable because he's lying. But Marceau looked really uncomfortable. Tisha looked uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable watching these two people. And I just don't know what to believe because Marceau acts like you can, whenever Tisha was asking him, so do you have the secret apartment? Like what's going on with that? It's like you can practically see his brain working like a computer, like really trying to figure out a way to answer without answering, but still looking innocent, but not really trapping himself in any kind of statement that might incriminate him later. Like you can literally see this man trying to outsmart his own wife. Anyways, moving on. So Tisha says, well, have you ever talked to Martell about that? And he goes, you said what now? And I was like, you heard her. You heard what she asked you because I heard what she asked you. And I'm not even sitting right next to her. You heard her. She asked you and she asked again, have you ever talked to Martell about the apartment? Marceau, he took a long time to answer. Okay, when I say a long time, maybe 5 to 10 seconds when it should have been just like, no, why would I talk to Martell about something that doesn't even exist? There is no secret apartment. So why would we have a conversation about that? So he took a while to answer. And then he says, that never entered my mind. I don't talk to Martell about that either. Okay. And to me, Marceau, like I said, he could be doing this on purpose. He's like, I'm going to act like I'm lying. I'm going to look like I'm lying on purpose just to kind of feed the fodder, just to kind of, make these people talk about us even more and, make this show even more successful and make us even more money. He could be doing that on purpose to mislead everybody. Or he could really be lying and he's just kind of bad at it. I don't know. And so, but to me, if I have to say one way or the other, I'm going to say I think that it's very possible he was lying. This guy was lying because he answered a question with a question. He was stuttering and he acted like he couldn't hear. Like say what now? What'd you say? When you heard exactly what she said. So Tisha, her face just looked to me like a woman in pain. She looked like a woman in pain. She looked like a woman who doesn't know how to maneuver through this because She has a suspicion, a very strong one, that her husband is up to no good, but she doesn't want to make it look like she has a suspicion. But then again, she doesn't want to look like the dumb wife either, who's just going to swallow whatever her husband feeds her. So she looked stressed out. She looked, I don't know, worried. And above all, she looked doubtful of what her own husband was saying. So Marceau says that Martel had called him afterwards, and I'm thinking he means after he posted the picture. He said that Martel had called him afterwards and told him, "Don't do anything that's going to ruin your marriage." And Tisha was like, "Well, what did he mean by that?" And so Marceau says, basically he was trying to tell me that you might not take it as a joke, or, it's not all good. And I told him, that we were good, right? And Tisha says, "Yeah, we're good." And then I think Marceau said this because he said it really, really low and kind of like under his breath. He says, "Yeah, because I don't want to see any surprises." I think that's what he said. I don't know what's going on with these people. I don't know why you would try to. I don't know if it's just all part of the love and marriage plot to make it look like they're having problems in their marriage so that they can have a storyline and make a whole lot of money from this show. I don't know. I don't know if this man is actually cheating on his wife and, is trying to like cover it up. I don't know if he's worried. Like, I don't know if Marceau is the kind of man that would rather stay with Tisha, even if he really doesn't want to stay with her, or maybe he does want to stay with her, but he also wants to do his philandering outside the home as well. I don't know if he's the kind of man who would never divorce his wife because it wouldn't be financially feasible for him to divorce his wife. You have to hire expensive lawyers and you have to talk about splitting of property. And I don't think they have a prenup. You have to pay child support, spousal support, because, she was in the home for a very long time. So I wonder if he's the kind of guy like he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to keep his money because it's cheaper to keep her, but then he also wants to do his thing on the outside. So he has to be really, really careful with what he's doing on the outside so that it doesn't mess up what's going on at home, so that Tisha doesn't end up filing for divorce. And it's going to cost him a whole lot of money, to go through a divorce and a settlement and pay support and splitting assets and all of that. I don't know. So then we go to Maurice and Kimmy. They're basically packing for their honeymoon. Good for them. Then we go to the book signing. So people start showing up at the book signing. Martel is there. His manager is there. And the only thing that I got to say about the book signing thing is, at first, I was really upset with Mel. I was like, oh my God, if she doesn't bring those children to their own book signing, Mel is a horrible person. I was ready to give it to her. But after watching this all the way until the end, Martel is no good. Martel is he's no good. He purposely schedules a book signing on a weekend that is Melody's weekend, and Melody already has plans with her children. Supposedly two distant relatives, not distant, it was an uncle and a granduncle. That's not distant, but two relatives and two relatives have passed away in a span of about a month, and so she wants to go spend time with her family, and this is her weekend, and so her kids are going to go with her naturally. And Martell just kind of like very short notice sent out an email to her, "Hey, the kids have a book signing, make sure they get their hair done," or something like that. And it was short notice. They already have plans. He didn't even ask. He was just kind of like demanding, bring the kids, get their hair fixed, have a book signing. And Melody's like, "No, we're not going to turn our lives upside down, to cater to your whim, to cater to your event." Martel was absolutely, I think, in my opinion, I think he was absolutely wrong for what he did. And he did, and I think Martel, this is the whole point. Martel did this on purpose. I think he did this on purpose so that he can look like, the divorced father who planned this grand event for his children, and this, his evil, crazy ex-wife wouldn't bring the children because she's gonna follow that order down to the, down to the letter of the law, and she's not gonna budge, even though this is for the children and this is their event, and they were really looking forward to it, but their evil mom wouldn't let them come. And it's far from that. Martel, if you had control of this book signing, You should have scheduled it when it was your weekend. If you didn't have any control of when the book signing was going to happen because of the availability of the space that you were using for the book signing, if you absolutely positively had no control, then you should have given her fair warning and you should have asked her, and you should have talked to your children about it and prepared them and said, you know what, this is what I had planned, but unfortunately it's going to be on a weekend that you're going to be with your mom. And so I'm really sorry, something. But Martell, this is 100% your fault. You're very, very manipulative. You're trying to make yourself look like the victim once again. You want to you couldn't make Melody look bad by talking about these alleged affairs that she had when y'all were still married, way before you had your affair. You try to bring that up. You try to throw that dirt on her, and it didn't stick because she's too clever. And so now you're going to use your children to paint her you're going to use your children against your ex-wife. And that's low down and dirty, Martell. Low down. Let that woman go. Just worry about your children. Go by your damn order, because you and Melody cannot agree on anything. Just both of you follow that damn order. And also, he says that the order says that if there's a special occasion or a special event and it's not your weekend, that the order allows you to have your kids for that special event if it falls on a weekend or on a day that you normally would not have possession of the children. So he's using this book signing as a special event, but it's a book signing that you scheduled on a day that they were supposed to be with their mother. And even if she had nothing to do, even if there were no deaths in her family, she has every right to keep her kids on her weekend, because that's what her order says. And you need to maneuver around the order. You can't just do whatever you want willy-nilly and expect her to jump up and bring the kids to you when it's not even your weekend. Y'all don't get along, so you have to follow the order. Martell, you're low down and dirty for what you did to try to make your ex-wife, the mother of your kids, look bad. And you're going to use your children. You're going to use your children as weapons against your ex-wife. Awful. And like I said, even if you could not control when you scheduled the book signing and it happened to fall on Melody's weekend, that's what happens in life. You don't always get what you want. Too bad, so sad. Take them on a trip to Disneyland and make up for it, or Disney World to make up for it. I don't know. Anyways, that's my review. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. Please don't forget to rate the video, and please, please, please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.